100. So that's their latest when it comes to the kind of smaller gimbals. They have another one for like heavier cameras, which is the Came 8000, but this is 7800, and it comes with slight little improvements, you know, when it comes to their previous versions, you know, like the 7500, even though it looks very similar, you could say. Now, you know, I'm not going to get into much detail about each gimbal individually, just sort of comparing them. So many people ask me out there, you know, which gimbal would I recommend and buying and all that stuff. So first thing, you know, before I can even answer that question, I would ask you guys, or ask you to ask yourselves, is basically what kind of camera you think you're going to be planning to use this the gimbals with. Because if you're going to be going with a bigger camera, or possibility of using it with a bigger camera, like, you know, the Red Epic, the Blackmagic cameras, like something basically bigger or heavier, then you pretty much the only option out there right now you have is this. There's another option, obviously, the Movi makes gimbals for bigger cameras, but the problem is just the price point with Movi is just incredibly. It's just, you know, when it doesn't even compare to this one, to the DJI Ronin. This one retails right now for $2,699. I believe it's going to come down in price, probably even more. I'm guessing usually, you know, it already came down. I think originally it retailed for around $3,000. So, you know, it's with this, when it comes to the Movi, it's just the price just really sort of, I would say, kills the competition. And also, you know, I would say compared to the Movi, this one is just a lot easier to balance and all that stuff. So you know, and it does all the things, if not more, than the Movi. You know, it comes with their case, remote, all the accessories you need, everything. So it's a great gimbal for that. Now, if you're just going to be using, you know, the gimbal, well, let's say with a small camera like DSLRs, DSLMs, like Canon 5D or 7D, like I have up here, or, you know, Sony A7S, for example, Panasonic GH4, those kind of cameras, or even smaller, then I would say this is the gimbal that you should go with. Now, the reason is this, because both of these gimbals actually do pretty much everything, you know, like, and they work in very similar ways, even though they're you know, they're produced and they're built quite differently. But the thing is that if you're going to be using it with smaller cameras, the Ronin, I find that it's just, the gimbal itself is just too big and too heavy. So you're gonna get really tired. You will probably not even want to use it sometimes. You will definitely need like a kind of a camera support, like the Atlas camera support that I use with it, just to take some of the weight off your hands and your shoulders. And so, you know, the whole point of shooting, I think for me at least, when I'm filming with these smaller, lighter cameras, is so that you know, I can work quicker. I can be more, you know, mobile. I can grab the camera myself. I don't need other guys helping me. Well, with this gimbal itself is so much lighter compared to the Ronin. So here, I mean, I have the camera on there, but it doesn't even compare. Like, I'm straining just to lift this up, whereas here you can see it's very easy to lift it up and use. And you know, like I said, you put a light camera on there, and it's a great rig. You can run around, use it. Now, if you're going to be using it for a really long time, you probably might still want to have like a extra support for it, like the Atlas camera support that you put on your back. And you sort of attach it from the top to take some of the weight off of it, but definitely you can work with it for a lot longer, way longer than you can with this thing. So that's the cool thing. Also, you probably see it is a bit smaller, the gimbal itself, and even when you're traveling, that's another thing, is that this gimbal, because it is meant for bigger cameras, comes with rods, a few extra other things that you really don't need for this, or definitely when you're working with DSLRs, and so. The case itself for this thing is a lot bigger and a lot heavier than the case that comes with this. Now, the cool thing about the Came 7000, like I said, comparing it to the DJI Ronin, or 7800, this model, is that they really sort of, you know, added and included a lot of extra things, and it just, I would say it's on par when it comes to the DJI Ronin. Now, it's not on par on everything, but I think in certain things it excels versus, you know, the Ronin, and in some parts the Ronin is maybe better. So just to sort of compare it, the two, I would say the thing I like the most about maybe the Ronin is that from all the gimbals out there that I've tried, including the Came ones, is that it's really easy to balance it. So like I said, you really don't need tools. You just use these knobs here, and you can move the camera, you know, the cradle left and right, up and down. Even here for the yaw, you can move it, you know, back and forth. For the roll axis, the same thing. On the Came gimbals, just like on the, you know, many other gimbals out there, you do need to use tools. Now, it does come with Allen keys, so you can you know, adjust and stuff. Now, the good thing is that once you do adjust, and sort of balance your camera. Like let's say if you're going to be using it like I use it with the Panasonic GH4. Once I balance it for the Panasonic GH4, after that, really the only thing that would change is when I kind of a different lens that I might put on it. Well, the good thing is that once you sort of balance the gimbal properly, you do not ever really have to touch any of these knobs again. You can just basically put the camera on there, and this version of the gimbal comes actually with a quick release plate that also, it's like a longer one that has markings on it, and allows you to move the camera easily back and forth. And so basically adjusting in that axis, you could say you actually don't need a tool. You just basically release this lever up here, and then you can move the base plate back and forth. And you can very easily lock in and tune in sort of the back and forward sort of balancing of the camera. So like I said, if once you swap out different lenses, that's really the only adjustment you'll ever have to make. Same thing with the Ronin. Now, like I said, it's just overall when it comes to doing the first, overall, let's say, balancing, or if you actually wanted to quickly switch from one camera to another, the Ronin is going to be quicker versus this one. Like I said, you have to use the Allen keys. Now, most cases, I think, especially if you're using it with small cameras, you're just going to use it with one camera. So, like I said, so it's not really a problem in this one. It's just, like I said, Ronin is a little bit better because it just gives you more options in that sense. Because you do not need to, it just allows you to work faster because you do not need the tools. Another thing that I like, for example, maybe more over the Ronin is the battery. The battery, although they're way more expensive, that's a bad thing. These batteries you can find on eBay and on Amazon, you can find them way cheaper. These batteries basically are just, like I said, cheaper to use, to buy, but when it comes to using them, they're just, not that they're hard to use, but like you can see, you have to use this sort of a Velcro strap, and then you have to plug in the battery up here, the cable, whereas this battery you just sort of put in the back of the gimbal here, and that's it. And then you also have a indicator here. It shows you how much juice you have left in the battery, versus these ones you will not know. So that's one sort of another advantage of the Ronin. Now, when it comes to the Came gimbal, I find that when it comes to just usability, it's actually a little bit easier than the DJI Ronin. Big thing is the fact that with the Came 7800, you really do not need to connect it to a computer. It is, and that's basically because it already comes pre-configured with really great settings. Versus the Ronin, when I got it, the follow mode was just horrible on it. It was super slow, it was very laggy, and it was just basically not usable. So I really had to, I was forced to connect it to my computer because I don't have an Android app. So that was the sort of the bad thing. With this thing, like I said, I did not need to connect it to a computer or a phone or nothing. I just put the camera, balanced it. Once I balanced it, I just turn it on, and you have a little joystick here that also doubles as a button, and that easily allows you to switch from the modes. Versus here, like I said, you have to either use the remote control to switch the modes, or use the app that comes with it. So here you just press the mode, the button here, and then you can switch from follow mode to follow just in the pen axis, for example, to completely static mode, all that stuff. So that's one really great thing. And also the follow mode in this is really well set up. Like it works. So far I tested out with the 7D, and then also with the GH4 and the Sony A7S. And with all those cameras, the follow mode worked beautifully, and so did the settings on this gimbal. So that's a really cool thing about this gimbal. Also, in case something goes wrong with this gimbal, like let's say, I don't know, you drop it or you have some accident, you burn out one of the motors or something like that. If that happens, you can buy a lot of the parts, whether it's by contacting Came or even if you just look around on the internet, you can buy a lot of these parts, basically these motors and things like that, sort of from other manufacturers. And you can also go in if you really wanted to, and you can really customize this gimbal, because this gimbal works on this open source software from Alex Moss, and it uses the Alex Moss circuit board. So it's very easy, and there's a lot of forums out there and a lot of people sharing their knowledge, sharing their settings for these gimbals. So that's a really cool thing. Versus the DJI Ronin, it's like kind of a closed software, closed hardware. So if something goes wrong, I'm not even sure if DJI Ronin will sell you just individual parts. You probably most likely will have to send it in for repairs to them if they do such a thing, or just buy a whole other gimbal. So that's one thing to watch out for. Now, I'm not sure if you're gonna have a problem. It seems to be built really well, but I'm just saying, if in case you did, let's say, break one of the parts or something, it's gonna be a lot harder fixing and replacing those parts with the Ronin versus this thing. So that's, you know, another advantage of it came. And then also, like I said, just the weight of it is just much smaller, compact, way lighter. Comes with a great case, comes with a stand, as you can see, but the stand, the case, everything about it is just smaller, lighter, more compact. So it's a lot easier to work with if you're using it with the smaller cameras. Now, unfortunately, you cannot use, you know, put big cameras on this, because even the cage itself is very restricting, but also it does not handle that much weight. So you guys want to see all the details of how much weight each gimbal handles and all that stuff, just check out the links you know, on my website. Just go to tomantosfilms.com or click on the first link in the description of this video. So yeah, so that's another thing. Now when it comes to usability itself, like I said, once you get the Ronin set up for follow mode, it works beautifully, you know, just as beautifully as the CAME 7800. So that's a good thing about both of them. They do what they're supposed to do. They keep the camera steady. You can also use this in you know, over under sort of underslung or upside down mode, or you can also use it in a briefcase mode, just like you can with the Ronin. So that's a cool thing. Now, you know, there is one little thing that I noticed since I had the chance to use the Ronin a little bit more, is that the Ronin, like I said, it allows you easily to balance the camera, you know, on the gimbal. But the thing is that it's just really weird how they built the case itself, because the case has the foam really exactly cut out for it. So let's say you really have to adjust the position, like for this one here, for the 7D, I really have to move the yaw basically positioning here, move it forward a lot. And that simply means that now when I put this back in the case, it will not, the gimbal itself will not fit like this, because the foam is so exactly cut out. So then that means I have to reset it all to the original settings. I have to put this back here, you know, and same thing goes, for example, with the cradle here. You know, I'll actually have to move it. So the thing is that it kind of sucks, because when you're putting it back in the case, you have to, like I said, unbalance it almost. You have to move it from the settings. Now, the good thing is that you do have these markings here. So I guess if you have a piece of paper, just write down your positions for you know, for each camera, then you can then quickly go back to those positions. But I would almost appreciate if you could just lock it and pack it into the case without having to do that. That's one thing that you can do with the CAME 7800. It comes with the case, but the case, it protects it. Now, it's obviously not as sturdy and as strong, because it's not made out of this, you know, hard, you know, sort of a protective plastic. But it's still a good case for traveling, and but it's not so precisely cut in for the gimbal itself. So when you make adjustments here, and you know, whether it's on the, you know, for the yaw or the roll axis, you can still pack this in there without really, I would say, screwing up your settings, you know, versus, like I said, so then, you know, when you take it out, basically, when you take it out of the case afterwards and you put the camera on there, really all you have to worry is just the back and forth position of the camera, which you can get that very quickly, and then you know your camera's balanced. Versus the Ronin, it's just, like I said, because, you know, the second you put it in the case, you have to sort of move all the things to these original positions. That means that each time you take it out of the case, you gotta then, you know, either remember your settings or just rebalance it from scratch. So that's the sort of one weird little thing that I almost wish that they that they fixed, you know, if they're ever gonna do like a DJI Ronin 2. But yeah, overall, both gimbals, like I said, work. So if you're gonna get, if you need a gimbal for a big camera out there, the DJI Ronin. For something small, I would suggest that the CAME 7800. You can buy, you know, both of these. You can buy this one actually from BH Photo. They offer a really great deal. This one you can buy directly from came-tv.com. But if you want direct links to these products, just check out the links in the description of this video, or again, just go to my website. And also there, I'm going to sort of post my other tests that I did with the gimbals and all that stuff, just sort of to compare the two of those, in case you're thinking about, you know, investing in a 3-axis digital stabilizer. Now, you know, as a sort of final sort of maybe warning almost to you guys, when it comes to using 3-axis gimbals, they're still fairly new technology, and they're not perfect basically. And so if you're really looking out there to get something to get smooth shots, I still recommend to everybody, get a really good Steadicam or like a little handheld, you know, camera stabilizer, you know, that basically is just, you know, old school, you know, works using gravity. And like I said, you learn to use it properly. And just, you know, when it comes to these gimbals, I've actually had problems with both of these. This one, I was shooting a video in LA with Daystorm, where it's just, because I did not have the support for the app and all that stuff that I you know, for my phone, I was not able to basically recalibrate it. The gimbal started shaking. I did not know how to do it. And when you're in the middle of a production, you're working, you know, I spent like maybe 15-20 minutes on it, but I did not have an assistant that could just sit and try to figure this out, get it working. So I had to basically, I was forced to just drop this and pick up my Steadicam and just use, you know, finish the rest of my video with the Steadicam. Now the came 7800, I've shot like this little nature sort of promo up north in Canada, and it worked great. I got a lot of nice shots, but then again, something happened with the calibration of it. And I just did not have time to basically sort of, like I said, tweak this, like figure out what was wrong with it, because the sun was basically going down, and I literally had like maybe, you know, 5 minutes left. So instead of trying to figure out whether it was the battery that died and what it was, and actually at the end it was a very simple thing. I just had to press the button, wait for it to recalibrate it, and also the battery was dying. So I think that was the one part of the reason. So I could have gotten it working again, but like I said, when you're out there in the middle of a production, sometimes you will not have time to really sit and tweak and get these things working. Well, the good thing is that I had my Steadicam, and again, I was able to finish a few of the shots on a Steadicam, because like I said, once you learn to properly use and set up a Steadicam, you will never have any problems. And it's, you know, it's something that, like I said, whether, you know, it does not rely on electronics, so you don't have to worry about the batteries running out, or maybe let's say if it's raining that it's going to damage the gimbal. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because a Steadicam is a simple mechanical device that once you learn how to use it, just balance the camera quickly and boom, you know, you're out there filming. So I would say regardless of which gimbal you're going to go with, still get a, you know, a handheld stabilizer. I'm going to post also some links to some of my favorite